Guys, so I'm going to go through the balance update today. I've already gone ahead and read it. We're just going to go over the most important bits of information and just kind of go and skim through everything. So I'm going to say first off that the update definitely targets a certain theme deck that I'll get into here in just 1 second. But other than that, I think that this wasn't the worst balance update. If anything, it was just that, some balancing. So some decks that were affected were brainstorming, which is affecting aviation and awesome aviation deck builds. And a lot of these changes increase slight power usage for the permanent or round or until played cards. So we'll just go with the awesome aviation, or for brainstorm was initially for awesome aviation they gained 17 until played, and now the only change here is 15, so you subtract 2. And Q is awesome, and they love to leave notes here and let you know why they went ahead and did what they did. So right here, based on community feedback, and they want to future proof this collection so as to not ruin it. Bobbit Worm and Dark Web are probably the start of the controversy of these cards being debuffed. Bobbit Worm and Dark Web are highly used in these tiny deck metas or low energy tournaments. Bobbit Worm probably got the larger debuff here with reducing its 30 power subtraction to 25 on both stats. And then Dark Web here goes from 50 or more. It's 5 of your cards gain 50 base power and 5 power permanently. So now that's been reduced to 4 cards. So again, not the worst debuff here, but they go ahead and they let you know why they went ahead and do that. And again, it's for future proofing reasons. Bobbit Worm, it's been heavily used in these tiny decks, and that's why they've gone ahead and done it. Dark Web, they said it's really versatile, so they said they can probably get away with it a little bit more, which I can kind of see because not all cards are created equal, and that's why they need updates. Now Frill Dragon, he again they just subtract some of the buffing power here in play. Not a huge change right here. Same thing here. Cassandra and Hera also got debuffed. Not sure what deck builds are really used for other than Greek builds, but if anything, it lets you probably have more options now in terms of what you're going to be able to select and buff your cards with. Hera, same thing, more Greek mythology cards here. Now, again, another one that probably suffers a bit more here in the bigger debuff is Door to Hell. And you can always feel free to pause it if I kind of gloss over it. Again, I'm going to try to go through these fast and get to those buffs better because I think the buffs are probably more interesting. Door to Hell used to burn all your cards for 30 until played and 50 this turn, but now it's burn 50 and gain 50. So, you get a free 150 points and you lose a future 100 points. So I would say that's actually still fair and useful. But now you definitely have to be more mindful of it depending on what kind of tournament or league you're playing, just because you might have a better option out there due to the fact that you've lost an additional 100 points, and that can make it or break it in those kind of tournaments. Now, this one got a complete overhaul in my opinion, Shinigami. From here on, we're going to get to the more controversial ones. Shinigami used to be anytime before the 13th round of the game, the card opposite lose 500 power. But now it has essentially been changed to a random card in the opponent's. It says a random opponent's card in play. So I wouldn't say this renders it useless, but I think this hurts Shinigami a lot in terms of control to the player, to the owner. If it plays like other cards I've seen, I think you just place it down and then you see what card it's going to hit beforehand. And you can kind of have it on and off until you know it's going to be a card that's down there. So I don't have this card. I definitely am feeling for you, Shinigami mains. It's definitely going to change up the debuff style decks. I think you could probably rotate Shinigami out and find something new now. You might. I'm not entirely sure. I don't run those decks, but I definitely think this is the more controversial change. This used to be a highly chased card. Higher Fantasy, some change for tarot card buffs. Now been reduced to 27 as opposed to 32. Going down here, and here we have probably the more most controversial changes: World Turtle and Planet X. These things have essentially been debuffed to now give your theme decks a lot more. World Turtle is supposed to play for this hybrid mix of rainbow cards where you need to have 4 arts and culture, and whatever 4 you have of the next albums gain that buff of 17 power until played. Well, that's now been reduced to 14 power until played. So I wouldn't say this renders World Turtle useless, but it definitely makes those weird rainbow decks, hybrids, because the pure rainbow deck is what, like 4-2-2-2, something like that with arrows. But now this makes World Turtle something that you might want to reconsider in those rainbow decks, because maybe something like arrows or color spectrum might be even more viable for your rainbow decks or theming. So I wouldn't say it's the worst. It definitely gives you an option play. I missed definitely for sure when it was 17 power. I did trade for this one. I still use it, but it's not my go-to when I make rainbow decks, and I think that's perfectly fine. And I think they did this because it coincides with the Planet X, and it's a huge space was a huge space deck probably within the last month or so. Um, Definitely was beating me. I wasn't standing a chance. I would say it was kind of warranted with Planet X deck, but I definitely understand how some people spent a lot of times chasing these cards just to get them debuffed. But I think they only debuff Planet X because I've seen it coincide with World Turtle, but Planet X getting the bigger debuff because he was really, really piling into those space cards there. And then here we have a large note. You can see the difference between the other cards we've seen and now the note for Planet X. So it literally stating Planet X, a formidable duo with World Turtle, has been the subject of both reverence and hatred depending on who you ask. I'm going to say I'm more on the hatred side. I'm almost glad this one got a debuff. And it's like, well, if you had it, you would use it. Probably, if I want to win. So I understand these changes though, because it was dominating, and they don't want just Planet X in every single deck. So they got to keep things fresh. And just because they debuff them doesn't mean in the future we won't ever see them buffed. And we see a card down here. Now that we're done with the debuffs and we're going to move on, we'll see one card here that's getting buffed from its previous debuff. Now I'm going to say the buffs here again are more exciting. Definitely moving up some cards, and I'm going to see a lot of these more now. Start off with Atlantis. I carry Atlantis. I've used Atlantis even before this, which I always found hilarious because every time I asked around, people were like, yeah, I don't care for that mythic. But I'm definitely seeing this going to be almost a staple in Ocean and Seas decks now. Essentially, if you play this down the first time, second time you're looking at 140 power, third time 190, and all at the cost of 3 energy. So that's super playable for Oceans and Seas deck, depending on what other cards you have. But I can definitely see that being run amok now, depending on the league. A new exciting one for sure is Cheetah. Cheetah went from a base energy of 3 energy and 50 power to now 3 energy and 88 power. So makes sense. Cheetah's speedy and fast and lean. So here you got something powerful and lean in terms of energy, and this is going to be great for those low league tournaments. It's going to put you in that power straight away, especially even in medium tournaments if you can't find something. If you have a lot of high energy cards and need something in the middle right there, definitely can have Cheetah in there. Unicorn, Unicorn just gets a quick energy cost of 7 instead of 8. No change there. But this was the card. It says right here. It says, we've chosen to revert a nerf to this card that was made a long time ago. So this is a card that was debuffed beforehand and now buffed. So that's always fun. Camelot. Camelot is being more usable now. It used to be a random card against 13 power this turn. And it says, for any... Now it is for each Knight of the Round Table you've played this game, a random card gains 13 power this turn. So that can easily stack up and make your Knights of the Round Table a lot more viable, and can definitely buff up your Holy Grail, and that's what they note down here. Incentive to dust off your Holy Grail. So that's always fun. Recently traded for it, overpaid, but hey, I really wanted that Holy Grail. Just want to get more mythics now. Calamity Jane and Buffalo Bill, I think these are amongst the last buffs here. Yep. And these are Western cards. Essentially, you play these two cards together and you get additional power for 4 turns, which lets your Western cards, Old West cards, become a little stronger and more playable and probably casual too. So that's always cool. So that's going to pretty much do it here for this list. And again, quick overview, at least for the buff section. Ones I'm most excited for: Cheetah, Atlantis. Debuffs, probably the most hit: Shinigami, Planet X, World Turtle. So not too many cards here buffed, but and Door to Hell, I guess I'll throw that one in there. But definitely a good change to the meta in my opinion. I understand Planet X is probably going to suffer the most. I feel for you guys, I really do, but I think this is better for the whole game, and I'm not going to be beaten by... I haven't seen these decks as rampant, but I've still seen Shinigami, I've still seen Planet X, and they still put up a good fight. So, you know, take it as is. I'm going to look always for Paleo, Oceans, and Arts and Cultures. That's more or less the cards I try to look for, my preferred favorite. So if there's anything else that's going to come up, I'll keep you guys updated.